My name is Juliet Dane, I'm 30 years old, a colonel in the United States Army. And tomorrow I'll be seated across from my father and brother in a high-stakes defense contract meeting. Only they have no clue I'm the Pentagon liaison with ultimate approval authority. 5 years ago, I departed this house without a backward glance. I'd grown weary of being the letdown, the daughter who squandered her future by selecting military service over business school. My father once declared the army was for individuals without genuine options. That was our final meaningful exchange. Tonight I'm back home for family dinner. My mother will discuss Logan's advancement, my father will nod with satisfaction, and someone will inquire if I'm still relocating frequently. I won't dispute it, I won't set them straight, because tomorrow when their supervisor addresses me as Colonel Dane before a room packed with executives, the quiet will be eloquent. Let them enjoy tonight. Tomorrow everything transforms. The driveway was more confined than I recalled. My old vehicle used to fit here with space to spare, but now my rented black SUV appeared too angular, too misplaced beside my mother's deteriorating minivan. I switched off the engine and remained in silence, allowing the heater's hum to diminish. My palms were steady now, military composure, they'd label it, but my stomach still twisted like it did before deployment. The porch light glowed, casting a warm amber radiance over the worn welcome mat and weathered front door. Nothing had altered. Not the fractured steps, not the brown hedges desperately requiring pruning, and certainly not the sensation that awaited me inside. That distinctive mixture of being overlooked and intensely scrutinized simultaneously. I pressed the doorbell from habit. "Juliet," my mother shouted from the kitchen. She didn't approach the door. "It's unlocked." Naturally it was. I pushed it open and entered. Same floral fragrance, same wall of framed photographs. My brother's graduation, his wedding, his 2 sons. No pictures of me in uniform, not even the commissioning portrait I mailed 5 years ago. "Dinner's nearly ready," my mother stated without glancing up as I stepped into the kitchen. "Logan and Mary Ill are en route. Logan just received another advancement. You'll never believe it." I smiled courteously. "That's wonderful, Mom. You'll need to congratulate him. He's directing the entire systems integration team now. Everyone at your father's company claims he's destined for success." That phrase, destined for success, used to torment me. It always sounded like a train I'd missed. Now it was merely background noise. The dining room table was arranged for 6. There was no place card, but the seating was understood. Logan at the head, Dad on his right, Mom between them, and me somewhere that didn't signify. Logan and Mary Ill arrived precisely on schedule, as usual. He wore the type of blazer that declares, "I'm significant but not overreaching." And she brought a bottle of wine none of us would genuinely enjoy but would all feign to appreciate. "Hey Jules," Logan said as he embraced me briefly, already glancing over my shoulder toward Dad. "Long time." 5 years. I responded. He blinked, clearly uncertain if I was kidding. I wasn't. We consumed roast beef, mashed potatoes, and the identical side salad Mom had prepared since I was 10. Logan commanded attention effortlessly, describing corporate reorganizations, performance bonuses, and what his team was accomplishing for the military division of the company. My father appeared as though he might weep from pride. "And you?" Mom turned to me, her smile courteous but hollow. "Still traveling with the army?" I took a sip of water. "More or less. Still a captain?" Dad inquired, eyes not departing his fork. "Something like that. Must be challenging being in the field constantly," Logan added. "I mean, no long-term planning, right? Just executing orders." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My uniform was still folded meticulously in the back of my suitcase upstairs, the Silver Eagle insignia catching light through fabric. Tomorrow they'd discover exactly how much planning I was accountable for. For now, I allowed them to talk. It would be the final time they spoke over me. I spent most of the evening in my former room, perched on the edge of a twin bed covered in the same patchwork quilt my grandmother had stitched when I was 12. The walls were still decorated with remnants from a version of me they had once trusted in, basketball trophies, honor roll certificates, college acceptance letters. Every achievement prior to the moment I enlisted in ROTC. After that, I became a cautionary tale in this household. There were no framed articles about my cybersecurity awards, no photos from my deployments, no certificates marking my promotions to major, then lieutenant colonel. The most significant accomplishment of my life, a full colonel in the U.S. Army Cyber Command at 30, was completely invisible in this home. I remembered the day I informed them about the ROTC scholarship. I had anticipated hesitation. I didn't expect revulsion. My father had regarded me like I'd discarded myself. The military is for people who don't possess real potential, he had stated. You were always intended for more. He'd meant his version of more, of course. An MBA, a corner office, and ideally a position under his guidance at Westbridge Technologies, the same defense firm he devoted his life to. It was always supposed to be Logan, and when Logan stepped into that role effortlessly, the family narrative was complete. I wasn't the daughter who chose a different route. I was the daughter who wasted hers. Downstairs, I heard the echo of laughter. Dad's deep chuckle, Mom's soft giggle, Logan's booming confidence. The sound of a tribe assembled around a chosen heir. I'd grown accustomed to it, but the irony was almost poetic now. Logan had just been promoted to lead the systems integration team on the very military contract I now supervised. He didn't know. None of them did. Tomorrow at 0900, I would walk into Westbridge Technologies in full uniform, brief the executive board as Pentagon liaison for Project Sentinel, and evaluate the same technical strategy Logan boasted about at dinner. Back in my room, I opened my suitcase and retrieved the uniform. Midnight blue, pressed to perfection. My ribbons and medals aligned precisely. The colonel insignia gleamed beneath the soft light. I checked for stray threads and polished the buttons with a cloth I always carried. My hands moved mechanically, ritual over emotion, because tomorrow wasn't about vengeance. It was about precision, presence, and performance. It was about finally allowing them to see who I had become in a language they couldn't interrupt or diminish. The next morning, I arrived at Westbridge Technologies 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The parking lot was already filling with staff in business attire rushing through security checks with lanyards and briefcases. I pulled into the reserved spot marked Military Liaison DoD Authorized, stepped out in full uniform, and adjusted my collar. Heads turned as I walked past the front checkpoint. Some stared, some stood straighter, but no one questioned why I was there. "Good morning, Colonel," the guard at the entrance said, scanning my badge. His tone was crisp, respectful, the kind of greeting I'd never heard in my father's home. Inside, I bypassed the reception desk and took the elevator to the executive floor. I had memorized the floor plan weeks in advance. No surprises, no hesitation. When the doors opened, the first person I saw was Logan. He stood near the hallway window, flipping through a sleek presentation tablet. His posture was relaxed until he saw me step out. He blinked. "Juliet. Why are you in? What is that?" I didn't stop. "Good morning, Mr. Dane. I'm here for the project review." Behind him, my father's voice echoed before he appeared. He was deep in conversation with two men in matching navy suits. Then he saw me and froze. "Juliet, what's happening? Why are you dressed like that?" he asked, eyes narrowing in confusion. He looked from me to the others in the hallway, gauging their reactions. It was dawning on him, too slowly, that something was amiss. Before I could answer, a tall woman with short white hair rounded the corner. Lorraine Hart, CEO of Westbridge Technologies, stopped mid-stride when she saw me. Then her expression broke into a smile. She walked directly toward me and extended a hand. "Colonel Dane. I didn't realize you'd be attending in person. A pleasure." I shook her hand. I was in the area. I thought it would be useful to sit in on the briefing myself. "Absolutely. You'll elevate the room just by being here," Lorraine said with a chuckle. Then, turning to the group behind her, "Everyone, for those unaware, this is Colonel Juliet Dane, our Pentagon liaison for Project Sentinel. She has final approval authority for all military integrations on this project. It was like the air got sucked out of the hallway. I didn't look at my father or brother then. I didn't need to. Their silence told me everything. We entered the conference room together. My name was already on a placard at the head of the table next to Lorraine's. I sat down, reviewed my notes, and waited. The team began filtering in: directors, engineers, project leads. Each introduced themselves to me with the careful politeness reserved for people who could stall or greenlight millions in funding. Some were surprised I was so young. Most were surprised I was a woman. None asked twice once they saw the insignia. Logan and my father came in last. They took seats farther down the table, stiff and quiet. The meeting started promptly at 0900. Lorraine opened the session, then turned it over to me. As we begin, I'd like to thank Colonel Dane for joining us in person. Her oversight has been invaluable, and her technical guidance has already refined key aspects of our cyber protocol design. I stood, briefed the room on current milestones, then outlined critical changes I expected implemented before the next round of funding. I established eye contact with every presenter, I posed questions, I demanded documentation, and then it was Logan's turn. He rose slowly, clearly disturbed. As systems integration lead, I've been creating a new rollout strategy for Phase 2, he began, his voice wavering. I believe it aligns with our performance targets. I waited, arms crossed, allowing him to finish. Then I spoke. Mr. Dane, I said, neutral and professional. Could you clarify how your proposed method accounts for the latency threshold specified in our last Pentagon memo? He blinked. I can revisit that portion. You'll need to. Our benchmarks are non-negotiable. Please revise the protocol draft and submit it by close of business Thursday. He nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. For a moment, the room was still. Then we moved on. I took control of the next discussion item as if nothing had happened. But everything had. The meeting ended just after noon. Lorraine wrapped up with a few remarks about transparency and collaboration, then turned to me. Colonel Dane will remain on site through tomorrow for follow-up assessments. Please extend full access and support. This project is critical to both national security and our future partnerships. As people began to file out, I felt eyes lingering, not with curiosity anymore, but recognition. My credentials were no longer a mystery. I had earned my seat at the table, and they knew it. My father lingered in the hallway afterward, just outside the glass walls of the conference room. He looked like a man who'd walked into a room expecting applause and found a tribunal instead. Juliet, he said once we were alone, still searching for a tone of authority. We need to talk. I nodded. Your office. He hesitated, then gestured down the hall. Inside, the air felt heavier. My mother was already there, seated stiffly in a visitor's chair. Logan stood by the window, arms folded, jaw set. The three of them together. My childhood jury. I didn't sit. I stood at ease, hands clasped behind my back, calm, unapologetic. You've been a colonel for how long? My father asked finally. 6 months, I replied. 6 months, he repeated hollowly. And you didn't tell us. I did, I said quietly. I sent invitations to my promotion ceremony, emails, articles. I left voicemails. None of you responded. He opened his mouth, but my mother interrupted. We didn't know what it meant, she said. Colonel, that sounds high, but we didn't understand. Why didn't you explain? Because I stopped trying to justify my worth, I replied. Every time I called, the first question was about Logan's projects or your quarterly numbers. You never asked about me unless it was to suggest I quit the army and come home. We thought you were stuck, Logan said. Like moving base to base, never really going anywhere. I looked at him. You said last night that people in the military just follow orders. You laughed while saying it. He shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know you were doing this. You never asked, I said again. My mother reached for her purse, then paused. Juliet, I don't know what to say. We should have been at your commissioning, your graduation, all of it. I thought you were pushing us away. No, I said. I just stopped hoping you'd show up. The silence that followed was thick, uncomfortable, but necessary. My father cleared his throat. So what do you want now? Public acknowledgement? An apology? A headline in the company newsletter? I shook my head. I want nothing but what I've always deserved. Respect for my work, for my decisions, for the fact that I didn't fail just because I didn't follow your blueprint. Logan finally stepped away from the window. You evaluated my presentation today, and you were fair, he said, quieter now. You didn't humiliate me. I wasn't there to, I replied. I was doing my job. He nodded slowly. It was impressive, honestly. You were commanding. It might have been the first genuine compliment I'd ever heard from him. My father stood but didn't move closer. You've built something we don't understand, he said. That's on us. We thought we knew better. We didn't. For the first time, I saw hesitation in his voice, not defeat, but a beginning. He extended his hand, not for show, but in a gesture I recognized from every military promotion I'd ever stood through. A quiet offering of respect. Colonel Dane, he said, voice rough. I owe you an apology. I underestimated you completely. I took his hand. Firm grip. No bitterness, just closure. I accept. My mother blinked quickly, then stood. We'd like to try again, if you'll let us. One step at a time, I said. And for the first time in years, I believed that might actually happen. 6 months later, my apartment in Washington, D.C. was quiet but full. The open-plan living room overlooked the Potomac, a clean skyline beyond the windows. My bookshelf held medals tucked between cybersecurity textbooks and a few framed mission commendations. Not too much, just enough. That night, my family joined me for dinner at my table, on my ground. My father was the first to arrive, carrying a framed article. Figured you might want a copy, he said. It was a print feature from a defense journal covering the success of Project Sentinel. My photo was at the center. Me in full dress uniform, standing beside General Armstrong and Lorraine Hart. He handed it to me like it was fragile. I've had this up in my office for a few months now, he added, eyes not quite meeting mine. Thanks, Dad, I said. It means something. My mother followed a few minutes later, holding a warm pie tin with both hands. Apple, she said with an awkward smile. Still your favorite, right? It is. She glanced around the apartment. So clean, so organized. I don't know how you keep it like this. I almost replied with a joke, military habit, but decided against it. She was trying. It didn't need commentary. Logan and his wife came last, bringing an expensive bottle of wine and a strange kind of ease I didn't expect. After dinner, as the dishes clinked in the sink and conversation drifted toward quiet praise, Logan pulled me aside. I implemented the rollout structure you mentioned, he said. The team didn't love it at first, but it works better than what we had. Did you tell them where you got it? He grinned sheepishly. Eventually. After I let them believe I was a genius for about 5 minutes. I smirked. As long as it's working. He nodded. It is. And so are you. I mean, you've really got it together. I don't think I ever said that. No, you didn't. Well, I'm saying it now. Across the room, I saw my father examining the medals on the shelf. His eyes paused over one in particular. The cyber defense citation for counteracting a foreign breach that had almost crippled 2 federal networks. I read about that one, he said quietly. Didn't realize at the time you were leading it. I was, I answered. He didn't add more. He just nodded. It wasn't a parade. It wasn't a movie ending. But it was real, and that made it better. Later that evening, over coffee and my mother's pie, My father raised his glass in a quiet toast. To Colonel Juliet Dane, he said, who proved that your worth isn't found in following someone else's path, but in walking your own. We all raised our glasses. I looked around that room and saw something I'd never seen growing up. Recognition. Not pity, not tolerance, but the kind of earned respect that no one could take back. And in that moment, I knew something important. The victory wasn't in them finally seeing me. It was in the fact that even if they hadn't, I still would have kept going. I thought I needed their approval, that someday if I worked hard enough, they'd finally see me. But the truth is, I didn't need their recognition to be real. I was already enough. Walking into that boardroom in uniform wasn't revenge. It was quiet clarity. I didn't need to explain who I was. My presence did that for me. They once told me I was wasting my potential, that I'd never become anything. And yet there I stood, leading the very project they'd built their careers on. That moment didn't heal everything. It didn't erase the past. But it did something better. It proved that I never needed to follow their path to create value. So if they underestimate you, let them. Keep building, keep rising, and when the moment comes, show up fully, calmly, because the strongest proof isn't what you say, it's who you've quietly become.